It all started on a quiet stretch of highway just outside a sleepy town. The sun was high, the road wide open, and a group of bikers, loud, wild, and full of swagger, were cruising like they owned the place. They spotted a massive truck up ahead, crawling along the lane. To them, it looked like the perfect target for some fun. With engines roaring and laughter echoing, they zipped around it, swerving close and making jokes about the slow giant behind the wheel. What they didn't know, though, was that the man inside the truck wasn't just any trucker. Meet Jack, grizzled, calm, and built like a brick wall. To the average eye, he's just another truck driver hauling freight. But behind those quiet eyes and weathered hands is a history most couldn't imagine. Jack is a retired Special Forces captain, trained in high-risk operations, survival tactics, and calm under fire. He's faced down far worse than a few cocky bikers. But today, he just wanted a peaceful drive. As the bikers kept pushing their luck, Jack kept his cool. For now. But tension was rising, and there was only so much a man like Jack would let slide. The road stretched on, the sun dipped lower, and things were about to shift. Drastically. What happened next was something those bikers never saw coming, and it's a moment they won't forget. Stick around, because this story is just getting started. Jack had seen their type before, young, fearless, riding on adrenaline and ego. He watched them in his side mirror as they darted back and forth, revving their engines and taunting him like it was all just a game. But Jack wasn't the kind of man who played games. Not anymore. He'd spent years in places most people couldn't even point to on a map. Desert missions, jungle extractions, high-stakes rescue ops, had done it all. And after leaving the Special Forces, all he wanted was peace, long drives, and quiet sunsets. But peace doesn't always come easy, especially when you're carrying your past with you. The leader of the biker group, a guy named Kyle, had a reputation around the area. Bold, loud, and always looking to prove something. He didn't know who he was messing with. To him, Jack was just another big guy with a slow truck, too old to fight back. His buddies ate him on as they rode closer, pretending to swerve into the truck's lane, laughing like they were invincible. Jack's knuckles tightened slightly on the steering wheel, but his face remained calm. Inside the truck, behind the driver's seat, a small locked case sat secured to the floor. It hadn't been opened in years. Jack hoped it wouldn't need to be today either. But as the bikers pushed further, tailing too close and crossing the line from annoying to dangerous, something inside him stirred, a flicker of the man he used to be. And that man was not one to be provoked. As the miles ticked by, the tension between the truck and the bikers grew thicker. Jack kept his eyes forward, reading the road and their every move without flinching. His years in the Special Forces had taught him how to assess threats without reacting too soon. The key was timing. Let them feel in control, right up until they weren't. Kyle, meanwhile, was enjoying himself. He pulled up beside Jack's window, grinning wide, and gave a mocking salute. His buddies followed, revving their engines and weaving in and out around the truck. One of them even tossed a crushed soda can at the windshield. It bounced off harmlessly, but Jack's jaw clenched for the first time. What they didn't see, what they couldn't see, was that Jack had already started calculating. Not just how to deal with the bikers, but how to keep the situation from spiraling. Because while he could handle them if things got ugly, there was a bigger concern: the narrow mountain pass up ahead. Twisting roads, blind corners, steep drops. Not the place for reckless games. At a gas station earlier, Jack had noticed something odd too. An SUV with no plates had been tailing him for a while before peeling off. It wasn't connected to the bikers, but something about it stayed in his mind. It was a subtle reminder that trouble doesn't always come from just one direction. So while the bikers laughed and pushed their luck, Jack stayed quiet, watching every mirror, every move, waiting for the moment he'd have no choice but to act. The road began to climb, winding into the hills where cell signals faded and the trees grew thick. Jack shifted gears, his truck humming low as it handled the curves with slow precision. The bikers, still riding close, didn't ease off. In fact, they seemed to ramp things up. Kyle pulled ahead, blocking the lane in front of the truck while two others dropped back behind it. The message was clear. They were boxing him in. Jack's eyes scanned the mirrors. His breathing was steady, but his instincts were on high alert. This wasn't just fooling around anymore. They were trying to provoke a reaction. Maybe get him to stop. Maybe worse. And up here, so far from help, that could go very wrong, very fast. Inside the cab, the locked case shifted slightly with the turn. Jack glanced down at it. Not yet, he told himself. Not unless absolutely necessary. But his fingers hovered near the latch, just in case. Up ahead, the road narrowed even more. Sharp turns, steep drop-offs, no guardrails. Kyle suddenly slowed down, forcing Jack to hit the brakes. The truck's tires screeched lightly against the asphalt. The riders behind tightened their gap, engines rumbling. Jack was officially trapped. Then, without warning, Kyle stopped his bike dead in the middle of the road. He turned around, grinning like he'd won. One of the other bikers dismounted and started walking toward the truck. Slowly, confident, like he knew Jack wouldn't do anything. But that was their biggest mistake. The biker walking toward the truck had a smirk on his face, clearly expecting an easy sphere. Jack didn't move. His hands stayed on the wheel, eyes locked on the rearview mirror. But then, just as the biker reached the door, Jack noticed movement in the distance, dust kicking up from the road behind them. It wasn't another car or a random driver. It was that same unmarked SUV he'd seen earlier at the gas station, now barreling toward them fast. Too fast for comfort. The biker knocked on the window, mocking Jack with a lazy tap. Jack didn't respond. His focus was split now. The bikers were one problem, but that SUV was something else entirely. It skidded to a stop a few yards away, and two men in dark clothes stepped out. No badges, no words, just silent, deliberate movement. Jack recognized a stance immediately. Professional, tactical, and very much not lost hikers. The bikers noticed too, their cocky energy shifting into confusion. Kyle turned his bike slightly, unsure whether this was part of Jack's response or something worse. Jack's instincts screamed that this wasn't a coincidence. Someone had followed him intentionally, and the timing was no accident. Now the situation had spun out of anyone's control. The road was blocked. The SUV guys were approaching fast, and the bikers, once so bold, were now caught in something way over their heads. Jack reached down and unlocked the case. The game had officially changed, and everyone was in the middle of it. Jack opened the case slowly, revealing a compact tactical device and an old but well-kept sidearm, both still legal, both tucked away for emergencies. He didn't reach for the weapon, not yet. Instead, he grabbed the device and stepped out of the cab, calm as ever. The lead biker froze mid-sentence, his tough guy grin fading fast. The other riders backed up, their confidence cracking under Jack's quiet, unshakable presence. The two men from the SUV closed in, clearly not here to make conversation. One reached into his jacket, but Jack spoke first, firm, controlled. "I know who you are, and I know what you're after. You're 2 years too late." That stopped them cold. For a long beat, no one moved. Then one of the SUV men nodded subtly, signaling they recognized Jack. But what surprised everyone, including the bikers, was what happened next. A third figure stepped out of the SUV, a woman. Jack's eyes widened. It was Elena, a former intelligence officer he hadn't seen since a classified op overseas. "Still causing trouble on the road," she said, her tone dry. She wasn't there to harm him. She was there to warn him. "They've reopened the case. Someone from your past wants unfinished business. Off the books." The bikers, once mocking, now stood frozen, caught in something they didn't understand. Jack looked around at the stunned group. "Everyone rides out of here in one piece," he said, "but from this point on, everything changes. And just like that, the past came roaring back. The road was quiet again. The bikers, still trying to process what just happened, exchanged uneasy glances. Kyle stepped forward, no longer cocky, just confused. "Who asterisk our asterisk, you man?" he asked, the bravado completely gone. Jack looked at him for a moment, then simply replied, "Someone who learned the hard way when to stand down." Elena gave Jack a small nod, her message delivered. Whatever was coming next, it wasn't happening today. The SUV rolled away without another word, vanishing down the road like it had never been there. The bikers, humbled, started up their engines in silence. Kyle lingered, then turned to Jack again. "Didn't mean to cross a line. We were just messing around." Jack gave a quiet nod, not angry, just done. "Some roads aren't meant for games," he said, "especially not with strangers." As the last rumble of engines faded into the distance, Jack climbed back into his truck. The case was locked and stowed again, where he hoped it would stay. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows on the winding road ahead. Whatever unfinished business Elena had hinted at would come in time, but not today. Today, he had miles to go and a quiet stretch of highway waiting. The real weight of the day wasn't in what had happened, but in what hadn't. A moment of chaos, diffused not by force but by presence, and for Jack, that was enough. He shifted into gear and rolled on, alone again, but not the same.